Yo, what is going on YouTube? I am Germ here. Today we have a little bit of drama, a little bit of an interesting discussion to talk about. It's surrounding a face and a figure that is obviously no stranger to drama and some of these, conversations and stuff like that. And that would be LS, the new head coach of Cloud9. And this specific conversation that a lot of people are having right now and that he had on Twitter and got a lot of these kind of discussions and debates and everything going is not necessarily a new topic for him. This is, I guess, kind of a critique of LS for a while now. The people who support LS are very in favor of, his mind and his way of thinking and his coaching style and his play style and all this stuff and his theories and beliefs on the game. And, the people who don't agree with him have obviously disagreed with a lot of these things for a long time. And I'm not here today to necessarily say anyone's right or wrong in this situation. Obviously, I'm not a high-level analyst. I'm not a head coach. I'm not, a professional player. I'm not any of that. But I do want to kind of give some of my thoughts and opinions on the whole situation, but also just go over it so you guys even know what the heck's going on, and maybe you can have an opinion of your own. So definitely drop a like if you guys do enjoy this video. I would appreciate that a ton. And subscribe to stay up to date on all my latest content. That would be absolutely awesome. But with that being said, let's get right into this because I have a feeling this might be a little bit longer of a video. So it all starts out with this. RJS. Honestly, I don't even know if he's on a team right now. I know this guy was CLG's Academy mid laner last year. I don't know what he does right now, but I know he's been posting a ton of YouTube videos. I know he's very active on Twitter. He's always breaking stuff down, but he's a professional player, professional mid laner, maybe former professional player at this point. I don't know. I know that he played some games in the LCS last year for CLG when Pobelter was benched, but pretty outspoken guy. Definitely gets his thoughts and opinions out there. He tweeted out this. He said, "Why Scorch, Cookies, and Corrupting Pot are must-haves for mid lane." Obviously, Cookies is the biscuit delivery. If you guys don't know what he's talking about there, Scorch, obviously the rune, in I can't think of the word, the sorcery tree, and then Corrupting Potion, the starting item. And he posted this video, and he's been doing this a lot, posting YouTube content and everything. And what he's talking about is these matchups between Fudge and JoJoPune, and talking about. It's like an 8 or 9 minute video. We're not gonna be able to watch the whole thing, but I think you guys should go watch it if you think this is interesting, just to kind of get an idea of where they're coming from. He talks about the difference between early game and scaling runes, and that in a lot of their games, Fudge and Cloud9 are opting for scaling runes. They're opting for a lot of things like futures market. They aren't opting for Scorch and Cookies and Corrupting Potion like a lot of people are. So a lot of people are indexing their resources into the early game, using early game runes, items, and setups to generate leads, to generate gold advantages that then get them items and other advantages around the map, and that's how they translate into their leads. As to where Cloud9 is, again, going things like futures market, gathering Storm, rather than Scorch, and kind of trying to just survive through the early game and avoid massive mistakes and avoid that early pressure, and then getting to outscale their opponents for free. It's two very, very different mindsets, and RJS just kind of, goes through the fact that, yes, I get what, Fudge is trying to do. Yes, he's trying to scale. Yes, he's trying to go the strategy. But, hey, JoJo abused him by playing aggressively, by using these tools he had to, be able to, again, create advantages, force Fudge out of lane, and make the game unplayable for Fudge. Because while JoJo's abusing him for the first 5, 10, 15 minutes of the game, like we honestly saw a lot in the Cloud9 EG matchups, that Fudge doesn't have the tools to fight back because Fudge is handicapped by his runes. That is ultimately what, RJS is saying in this situation. And LS responds. He says, "I agree. Runes matter more than what actually happened independent of them. Yeah, you should take these runes to make up for poor mechanics and decisions in laning phase. That's how you get better as a player at Fudge." Now, obviously, LS is being very, very sarcastic here. This is not a real tweet. He is saying Fudge took the right runes. Fudge played bad. Fudge needs to play better, and he lost to JoJoPune because JoJoPune played better than him. Fudge made mistakes. JoJo capitalized on them, not because JoJo had some superior rune setup or anything like that. We set him up for a position to win. He just didn't do it. Hey, it's okay. It's a new role swapped mid laner. Things are going to work out in the long run. And I don't really think that this response makes much sense by LS, honestly, because it doesn't really, argue about what the best runes are. He's just saying that, hey, Fudge could have played better. RJS is, at least from my knowledge, mostly talking about the runes, and LS takes it to gameplay. Now, I think LS has a good point that yes, runes are not the end all be all. And maybe RJS makes that point a little bit. RJS is like, hey, this game was unplayable right off the bat because Jojo Pune was just guaranteed to abuse him or something like that. And obviously I don't agree with that. So at that point, I do get where LS is coming from, but I wish LS would have kind of, argued the other side of it as well, actually talking about the runes rather than just talking about the points. But maybe, RJS should have done a better job of that as well. But it is interesting that, I like what Ellis is saying, that yes, players need to be held accountable for their play as well, and it's kind of hard or difficult or unfair to judge the runes when the game plan wasn't executed correctly. Like, hey, we can draw up the perfect play in the world, but if our guy doesn't execute, hey, what can you do if he played a lot better individually? And I know LS actually goes on to say some specific things. I don't know where he replied to it, but he actually goes on to say some of the things that he thinks Fudge did incorrectly. And, hey, maybe if Fudge would have done those things better, it would have worked out. And hopefully Fudge will do those things better in the future. But again, I did think that it was a little bit interesting here. RJS tries to get him to chat. I don't really think they end up talking. But then there's some other things going on here. Benji, he is a former pro player as well. He says, I don't agree with runes being the biggest factor here compared to Sapphire's Crystal at least, but why do you consistently imply that early game advantages are a crutch for bad players rather than a tool for skilled players to leverage them into game-winning leads? And that's exactly what's going on here. It's just two exact opposite viewpoints of thought. And again, I don't know which one's better. What I would say is that I can't imagine, I don't know this for sure, obviously, but I can't imagine that it is this black and white as both sides are trying to make it. Like if I was looking at this objectively, I would probably say that RJS and LS are both wrong. I can't imagine it's just like early game is the best all the time, it's great, or that scaling is the best all the time, it's great. If you go early game, you're trolling. If you go scaling, you're trolling. Like, hey, that's almost never true with anything in life. There's so much more nuance with topics and discussions and things like that. RJS is saying, hey, if you have the tools, if you don't have the tools to even fight back in the early game, you're just going to get abused 100% of the time. It's going to be game over. And LS is saying, hey, you know what tools the other guy has. This is how you should play around them. And if you just do that, then 20 minutes comes around, you automatically outscale him for free. And then he has a bunch of runes that don't do anything, and you have all the runes, you have all the power, and then you get to win the game for free. Now, obviously, both sides of that, if League of Legends was played by robots, AI at a perfect level. Yes, if Fudge was a robot and JoJo was a robot, then we would actually get to figure out, what the better runes are at the end of the day. But again, we don't really find out, what the handicap and stuff is. But he does kind of ask, why do you believe in this? LS says, because I've played multiple patchless games, have been around in esports for 17 years to see the same patterns and the logic that surrounds it. Look at the laning phase and talk about the options of both players, both options of both champions rather than mistakes the players made. I'm never going to engage in the argument that doesn't actually talk about what's happening on the screen and instead claiming to the sky something else at play that isn't. That doesn't really make much sense to me. This garbage is like listening to people in RTSs claiming you couldn't survive certain rushes or that certain matchups in fighting games are impossible because you have to be near frame perfect to defend, yet time goes by and magically top players skirt the line and do just that. So this is where he starts to hint at what he's talking about a little bit specifically. He's like saying that yes, does the other guy having early game runes and you having scaling runes maybe put you in a little bit more difficult position? Yes. Is it unplayable? No. How he's talking about, certain matchups in fighting games, they might be unplayable, yet the best players figure out a way to do that. So again, he's just saying, hey, Fudge needs to practice, Fudge needs to work around this, Fudge needs to get better, but we want to work at doing things the perfect way, so then if we eventually get there, then we can actually be the best. We don't want to just, use a crutch or a handicap or whatever to be pretty good or be okay or, cover up some of our mistakes. We're going for perfection anyway, so we might as well get there. This is kind of the classic line of the whole thing as well. He says, Chovy would skull fuck anyone in LCS with incorrect runes or bad builds. So what's the claim? The runes or the player? And again, I don't think it's that black and white. I'm sure it's a little bit in the middle. It can be the runes and the players. There is somewhere in the middle between what both of these guys are saying. Again, at least in my opinion, that's just what I think. But he says if it's the player, could the player also alter the runes? Well, you'd have to actually tread the line to find out and not just give up because you fail a lot at first. And I do agree with that. I think that is a great point. RJS is saying, hey, Fudge should have just given up. This thing was over from the start. The lane was GG. He's getting abused. The game's over. And then LS is saying, hey, no, he could have done X, Y, and Z, and then it wouldn't have been over. Now, the question is, can players actually do X, Y, and Z on a consistent enough basis to make up for the early game things? LS maybe should argue it's going to happen 100% of the time, but clearly it's not. I thought this whole thing was interesting. They both kind of got a lot of backlash. There was a lot of arguments on both sides. Some people saying, hey, LS needs to chill out a little bit. He's going a little crazy. He's going a little ham. Some people, perma-flaming RJS. And that's kind of what I think is interesting here, and what I've always thought was interesting about LS and his fan base and stuff. It's that no matter what LS says, not no matter what, but for the most part, when LS, has ideas and really preaches them a lot, his fans back him up so much and back him up to a level where, they really start to flame and be pretty nasty and disgusting towards other people. And I think that's very, very interesting because, there's some things here where they go on to say, yeah, I take 20 damage from Scorch over free AP in a game where getting high amounts of AP is more difficult than before. Amazing choice. Obviously being kind of a smartass there. This guy said early game runes only exist to hide unskillness and poor laning phase knowledge. How many times you see players selling 2 or 3 cookies because this rune is turbo useless? Here you take 2 scaling mages who don't really have any kill pressure, yet you let them scale in peace. This guy saying I hate scaling efficiently. I hate scaling efficiently into late game. Yeah, and just, people flaming RJS a lot. And obviously, these guys are LS fans. These guys, have bought into what LS has said, and that's totally fine. But I just think it's really, really funny that they're acting like the answer is so obvious, that you're an absolute idiot if you believe the other thing. Yet, here's, Fudge's runes on Victor. Obviously, some of the stuff we're talking about, he's going Gathering Storm, he's going Futures Market. You won't see any Biscuits. You won't see Scorch, nothing like that. But hey, there's, some pretty great players around the world. I have one of these games pulled up here. I thought I had it pulled up, but I guess it closed out on accident. Showmaker, he's pretty good. He has a pretty good grasp on the game. He has a pretty good grasp of a lot of ideas. Damwon Kia has a pretty good coaching staff, has a lot of analysts, a lot of very, very smart and brilliant people, just like Cloud9 has around them. I mean, Showmaker, he's taking Scorch and Biscuit Delivery on Victor here. So, are all these people, are these Twitter analysts saying, some of this stuff to Showmaker? Are they saying it to Damwon Kia's coaching staff? Are they saying it to them? I think that's kind of weird. And then here we have, I think it is, this game, this is BDD, also another very great player. He has Scorch. He doesn't have Biscuits, but he has Scorch in that matchup. I think I have a Faker game here too. Yeah, he's got Scorch. He's got Biscuit Delivery. Faker, pretty good player, pretty brilliant mind. T1, very serious coaching staff, a lot of great coaches, a lot of great analysts. Even LS, would say, hey, me and Faker think a lot about the game the same. T1 has a lot of great players there, all that stuff. What about an example from the LPL? Doinby, he's a pretty good player. LNG, new team. Hey, Scorch, Biscuit Delivery, what's going on there? Is it... Now, I will say this. I'm very, very against appealing to authority. I'm not trying to say that just because Showmaker, Faker, Doinby, these teams are great, these players are great, that they are automatically right. There is instances in history surrounding everything where so many people think one thing is right and the best minds in the world and everyone is convinced of one thing and they end up being just absolutely wrong. That is totally possible. I'm not saying that just because Doinby or Faker or Showmaker or whatever is doing it means they're right. But I'm also saying on the other side that just because LS and all of his, little crew have bought into it, LS, Nemesis, I see talking about this and tweeting about this, Vigar V2 being very, very vocal about this, and then all, the random LS guys that crawl out of the woodworks on Twitter and everything, just because they're saying it, it doesn't necessarily mean that it is absolutely correct either. And again, I think it is much more different than black and white. I think there's a lot of nuance here. I think League of Legends is an unsolved game. It is a game with a large human element, with a lot of mistakes and nuance. It is not like a fighting game, where a lot of the stuff is almost solved. Yes, there's mistakes and mechanical outplays and errors and stuff like that. But, when you break it down, it seems to be at almost a simpler level than a very, very complex game with so many variables and things going on. So again, it's just interesting to me. Again, I don't know who's right. I don't know who's wrong. I don't think anyone knows who's right and wrong because it's a very, very complex topic and issue. But hey, for RJS to be so sure about himself being right, that's probably not very smart. That's probably a little bit dumb. For LS to be so sure, and Vigar V2 and Nemesis to be so sure that they're right, that's probably a little weird. That's probably a little dumb. That's probably not very smart. Because again, there's other people who are very, very good, who are very, very well respected, who are very, very smart, who are also trying their absolute hardest to win games, who just have a different idea. And I know there have been people, skeptical of LS in the past and critical of LS in the past because, yeah, he has this idea of like, if the game was played perfect by robots in a vacuum, this would be best. And then everyone else is like, well, sure, maybe, but that's not what's going on here. So I don't know. I just thought this whole thing was very, very interesting. In the end, I think LS makes some very, very fair points, and I think people should hear him out. I think RJS makes some decent points, and people should hear him out. At the end of the day, I appreciate RJS putting himself out there like this, making content, making videos, trying to educate people on ideas that he believes in. I also appreciate LS responding to this and giving some of his thoughts and opinions. I don't really think either of them communicates in the best way possible or facilitates discussion in an amazing way. But hey, I think it's better than nothing. We need more content. We need more people putting stuff out there. And it's unusual to see, an LCS coach, maybe responding to people like this, responding to people in ways like this. And at the end of the day, I think it's very, very interesting. And over the course of the season, we'll see. We'll see how well LS is able to implement his game plan, his style, his ideas about the game into Cloud9, whether or not they'll be able to grasp those ideas and implement them. And then, whether they work out or not, I guess we'll still have the debate over, hey, they were the right ideas, they were executed poorly. Maybe they were the wrong ideas, executed poorly or well. I don't know, but this whole thing was just so interesting to me, and I needed to talk about it. I need to get my thoughts and opinions out and just cover it for you guys, because I think this was kind of a big deal that a lot of people were talking about. So that's pretty much it for this video today, guys. Definitely drop a like if you did enjoy it. I would appreciate that so much. Leave a comment down below. Let me know what you think about this whole story. Are you on, the side of RJS, Faker, Doinb, Showmaker, some of these other players in the world, or are you on the side of LS, Cloud9, Vygar V2, Nemesis? I don't know. I'd love to hear your guys' thoughts and opinions. A ton of very, very popular, knowledgeable people in this whole situation. So I'm sure it'll be contentious. I'm sure it'll be an interesting comment section. Subscribe, save today, and all the latest content. Hopefully catch you guys in the next one. But until then, peace.